Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Brown. I am 20 years old. I was born in Oregon, and throughout the course of my life, I have moved to several different states. I lived in Maryland after Oregon, and then my mom met my stepdad there, and we moved over to Arizona as he was stationed there from the military. And after being diagnosed with MS about 6 years later, we moved to California, Eureka, California, which was a very small town. I think that I could say that's the smallest town that we ever lived in, and it was nice, but it certainly was different from all the other environments that I ever lived in. And then we moved over to Georgia, where my stepdad's family lived. And now I have lived here. I lived here for 4 years, and then I moved to Florida for a few years, and I came back. So, anyway, I feel like a lot of different things have contributed to my American culture. And prior to interviewing my mom, I at first felt like I didn't really have a culture because to me, culture meant that you had a community that you really identified with. And that's not to say that I don't identify with other Americans. I just, I've always felt like I've shared a lot of views that are different than some other Americans, and obviously those could be outliers. And um, I just know that at the end of the day, I was born in America, raised in America, held to the traditional American value that there is equality for everyone, and that can be traced back to our founding fathers. And even if there may not have been the equality there is now today, they basically had a premise that that's what they wanted. They wanted there to be freedom from speech and from religion, and it's great to see that in the generations that have followed that there has been so much more acceptance, and in that I feel like I could embrace the American culture more, and I definitely want to look into it more, as well as looking into some of my ancestry, which I know derives from Ireland and Germany as well. So, without further ado, I would like to present the interview of myself with my mother. Hello, everyone. This is my mother, my beautiful mother, Helena, and I am interviewing her to talk with her a little bit about our culture. So, first of all, mother, what would you feel that our culture is?
Um, Mine growing up, I think, probably is rather different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a very strict Irish and German Catholic home.
Yeah.
Um, and Catholicism is really a culture in of itself with all the traditions that are embedded, and it really impacts you on pretty much all levels of your life. What you do from day to day. I went to a Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was ingrained in every day of my life. My mom would do morning prayers, night prayers, prayer intentions throughout the day, and we would practice all the feasts and do the rosary.
Mm-hmm.
And every Sunday we went to church, whether we went camping or no matter where we were.
Yeah.
If you're sick, it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You still were going. So that is the most, I guess, the one that has made the biggest impact on me
Mm-hmm.
is that my Irish ancestry on my father's side, he always used to play his guitar and he would play different kinds of Irish tunes.
Mhm.
Some of them I can remember, some of them I can't. But then I also recall my whole side of his family, the Boyer family, that all of them really embraced their Irish heritage.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I was even introduced to just the Celts and the Celtic symbols and
Mhm.
whatnot. Some of my aunts and uncles on that side of the family would have a symbol up or something like that. So that always was intriguing to me, just the folklore and
Mhm.
that we were Irish Catholics rather than Protestant.
Mhm.
That made a big difference, and I could kind of see that carried out a little bit into my youth. Probably more from my mom than my dad,
Yeah.
because she does make a distinction, and I don't think that she means anything hateful about it, but she definitely sees Catholicism as the one true faith. And
Mhm.
I guess it will do if you're a Protestant,
Yeah.
but but she's a loving woman. She just is very strong in her beliefs. So
Mhm.
that has been a huge impact in my life. Spiritually, I that is what gets me through a lot of times is the faith that my mother had, and just the smells of even going to church can
Mhm.
bring me this peace and comfort, which is really odd.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have like especially loving, wonderful memories of
Associated
yeah,
with it.
exactly. But in my adulthood, it does give me a sense of peace and just that familiarity
Yeah. Mhm.
of something that's been throughout your life. So I've definitely embraced it more over my lifetime. And I did go to Ireland. Excuse our cat
Yeah.
attacking the curtains in the background. I did go to Ireland as an adult. That is the only place I've gone
Mhm.
overseas. And actually, ironically, I did wear something that I got from Ireland with the Tree of Life
Mhm.
um, that really is strong with me. Family, tradition. Um, Ireland has really been something that has carried through my life that I embrace as well. Um, so that has had a huge impact on me, and I feel like that carries through the life that I had with you growing up. But
Yeah.
it has
It was a little
evolved. It has
different also.
evolved. I mean, we were very traditional,
Mhm.
and I was one of the more rebellious of the 10 plus one other from my dad, so 11 children.
Mhm.
I was one of the more liberal and rebellious,
Yeah.
and embraced a lot of the new modern American culture of this melting pot which we are in. That even I mean, I still have some carryover. I can see where there was still a lot of discrimination growing up, just in comments that even I made, and they weren't
Mhm.
even meant to be hateful, but they
Yeah.
were what we grew up with.
Mhm.
And as an adult, and actually more as I became an adolescent, I really didn't like that and recognized it and
Mhm.
fell away from that pattern because really I think that's really where civil rights has changed our culture as a whole in America, and what it means to be an American is a new culture in and of itself. You don't have to look back into, oh, where were my great grandparents or great
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
grandparents? America, in and of itself, is a completely new mixture of tolerance and embracing all cultures and allowing that to be a part of infiltrating in the way that we think and how there are similarities and differences,
Mhm.
but coming to terms with those. And for the most part, I think that's what the majority of Americans do. There are outliers on both sides,
Mhm.
but overall, I feel like that is where my generation was going for those who are very more liberal and open minded
Mhm.
about others and trying to get away from differences that cause division.
Yeah.
And then with your generation, and even more so with Lauren, who's 14,
Mhm.
even that I'm sure you can see has
Yeah.
caused a huge, just watching that generation grow up as well, and what they embrace is even kind of cool and
Yeah.
different. So I think that that's important because there's a lot going on in our country, and in a lot of ways it is causing an uproar and revolution, not just with what's going on in our politics, but also what's going on in America as a culture of people. And that it's just become a huge topic of contention and
Mhm.
feeling injustice and lack of our freedoms. That's part of our culture. That's part of our American culture in our Constitution. That is
Yeah.
what is ingrained in us and what we're truly embracing. And I don't know where to end this question.
Well, so my question really is, would you consider that I'm just in I'm a liberal American culture? Is that kind of where you think I would be? Because I do know that I wasn't raised in that strict Catholic environment. There was strictness within the household, but it wasn't in the sense that it was strict in that you have to go to church, you have to pray, you have to fast, you have to do this or that. It was strict in that you have to go to school and get good grades. And, I was never taught to look at people the same, but that's just the mentality I've always had, that I've never felt that anyone is different or someone is superior than one another. Like, I've always just seen it as a man and a woman, and that's pretty much it. So would you say that my culture is just kind of like American? Because even though I know our ancestors were Irish, I wasn't really even around the Boyer family.
That's what I'm saying, is that at this point, even the other night when I was with you, I mean, a group of people can get together, female of whatever race and ethnicity, and we can get together and talk about things, and it's completely normal. There's not even a second thought about whether this is okay or not.
Yeah.
So, yes, you were brought up in a much more liberal environment, especially compared to myself. But that's because I saw different changes that I felt in my heart and in my spirit were where I was being led, and is what the teachings that I grew up with, being a Catholic Christian, that's what it most embodied and fell in line with, is that we are not to judge, and we are not to pass judgment on others, especially when we could easily be judged ourselves.
Yeah.
So we are only taught to love one another and to embrace your brother and sister where they are at.
So it's a combination.
So I don't think that it's a matter of whether you were brought up liberal or conservative. I don't believe that has anything to do with the culture that we're in.
It has more to do with
now, because it's not something you choose to be.
Yeah.
You don't choose to be brought up Catholic or Jewish or Muslim or atheist or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not a choice that you have. Just like it's not a choice whether you grew up in America, North America, United States of America, in Peru, in China.
Yeah.
You don't choose those things. Those are just part of life.
Yeah.
And that is what we are at right now. It's not any longer where we were as much as where we are now.
Okay.
So culture is that community of people, no matter what you are.
Yeah.
So yes and no. It embodies what we are. You don't choose your culture either, quite honestly. Just like you don't choose. Now, the way you see life and the way you live life, that's just the effect of culture on you
Mhm.
and your perception and the things that you did grow up with and the things that I passed on to you about the way I saw life and do see life.
Yeah.
So it's a community thing. And then within the personal family, I think that a lot of it is intentional. I
Mhm.
intentionally brought you up believing or at least trying to
Believe in God and having a spiritual
show
connection.
you and your sisters
Mhm.
what I felt was right and the way to look at the world. But I certainly don't force you to
Yeah.
believe what I believe.
Mhm.
But that was my intention
Mhm.
because as a parent, that's what you're always going to do. You're going to try to take what you've learned and instill it in your children. And that again brings you back around in a circle to the way that your community is
Yeah.
and your culture is and the way that we play within each other.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mom. You did answer my questions really well.
All right.
Thank you.